Welcome back to Crime Besties, to another episode. Hey, Emma, how you doing?
I am really excited. We are recording our final episode of 2024.
That freaks me out entirely in so many ways.
I know. Well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So go us, first of all.
Ugh.
I know we say that a lot, but, you know,
We're proud of
ourselves
us.
on the back.
We're allowed to be proud of us.
Yeah. We've done, like, what is this? Episode 27, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, we're 6 months down the track of consistently producing an episode every week. So I think we've done really, really well. And we...
Really funny. I was flicking through some photos last night to try and find, because I take a photo of my box that I leave out for the kids every Christmas so that I know what I put in it last year, so I know what to put in it this year. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so
I get that.
Yeah. So I was trying to find that photo. I was flicking back into my photos from last year. And so as I went through, I think there was a photo from, it was about February, March, of us two set up with our podcast, like kind of like, you know, selfie of like us set up. And I'm like, geez, Feb, that seems a little early. Did it take us that long to get it?
It
did. And I'm like, it did actually, because we started, like, we sort of had a few, you know, like false starts and things before we got like an actual episode. And then we recorded a few and banked them because we were a bit like, do we really want to do this?
Yeah. Do we want to release these? Like when we recorded them at first, we're like, oh God, do we practice more? Do we, I don't know. And then we're like, no, we just need to bite the bullet and get it out there.
Rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think when we were recording in Feb, we were just trying to actually figure out how microphones
microphones worked. It was all, I think that's what it was. It was just us doing a setup of kind of like, oh, how do we do this?
Because I feel like we didn't record our first episode until like April or May.
Yeah, I reckon.
And then we released it in June.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were just doing some tests. But yeah, it was just cute. I was like, oh my God, wow.
And our setup's changed heaps since then.
Oh, entirely. Yeah.
And we've got it down pat. We were, you know, getting ready for the recording. It used to take us all day to get going.
Yeah, we'd literally like drop the kids off and be like, oh crap, we've got to go back and pick them up.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
And now we're bloody well-oiled machine.
Oh, we can get so much done on a Friday
So
as
much.
well as a record.
Yeah,
already been to assembly.
Yeah, went to assembly this morning, and we've both got appointments this afternoon that we'll well and truly easily get to. So, yeah.
Go
now,
us.
I was thinking about like what we could have a bit of a chat about before the podcast today. And I don't know why this memory popped in my head, but I want to know it's very Christmas themed, this question. Mm-hmm. What is the worst KK present you've ever been given?
Oh, gosh.
Do you want to think about it and I'll tell you mine?
Yeah, tell me yours and I'll have a think because I've had a few because I've been a teacher. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fair call. Well, mine actually relates back to when I was in grade 6 at school.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember what the limit was. It was a little while ago. But I got given, and I still remember the kid who gave it to me, Paul, hotel soaps.
Oh, were they like the rose ones, the little rose ones, or no?
No, they were wrapped, and they were wrapped with the hotel.
Oh, they were legit
hotel soaps. Yep.
So he'd pinch them out of some hotel instead.
And that's what he gave me for my KK present.
That's pretty bad.
It's bad.
But, I mean, look, the kids thought, you know, like... I mean, I've been given some pretty shit gifts over the time, but not necessarily KK ones. So.
Go, tell me.
You know my worst one.
Oh, yeah, I know your worst one.
Yeah.
You've got to tell the people.
Oh, should I?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 40th birthday present, like, you know, so should be a decent present for a 40th, you'd think.
Well, one would think.
You'd think? Yeah. I got an electric toothbrush from someone who was very close to me at the time. Yeah. Won't name names.
Lord, it's just like, oh, Meg. Yep. First thought,
I know
electric
what she needs.
Toothbrush.
Yeah. And a pair of socks.
Yeah, but they were fluffy, comfy socks.
No, they were just regular socks.
Oh, I thought they were like home socks, you know.
No.
Oh, so it was like Kmart.
No, just, you know, crew socks. Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
I may have been married to the person.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason. My husband, the worst thing he's ever given me, I'm just trying to think. He's pretty good, but I'm also very good at dropping hints / links to what I need or want.
Oh, I love it.
What's the worst thing he's given me? I have gotten a few like Marge bowling ball gifts. You know how, in The Simpsons where Homer gifts Marge a bowling ball.
I love that. And then she almost has an affair, doesn't she?
Yeah. I have received a few of those, like, you know, tickets to things that maybe wouldn't be up my alley necessarily.
Yeah.
But nothing like an electric toothbrush. That takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the thought that cards?
Not in that instance, no.
I don't think there's any way of digging yourself out of that one, is there?
There's not.
Oh, well,
what about as a
let's
teacher?
make it even better.
Oh,
it did get taken back and returned. So then I actually didn't get anything.
Yeah, that's worse. Yeah, that's worse.
Yep.
Yep. What about as a teacher?
Look, the coffee mug situation was getting bad. That
Yep.
like I did have to do a massive, exodus of those out of my cupboard because I ended up with like just odd coffee cups. I wanted it was like this big thing of being an adult almost of like going, I want a set of 4 that match.
You literally said that to me last year. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You were like, I think it was during the Boxing Day sales.
Yeah.
And you were like, all I want to get are matching coffee cups for my new house.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that because we're the same. We've got heaps of mismatched ones and neither of us are teachers, but you just sort of accumulate bits and pieces along the way.
And look, I'm all for a bit of mismatch, but like matched in some way, like kind of coffee mugs. I actually find that really cool, but I was talking like random.
Yeah.
Like, so it was really, needed a change. Plenty of candles, which I know you love a candle.
I love a candle.
But these are cheap ass candles.
Yeah, which you need a quality candle.
And look, as a teacher, honest to God, anyone looking for teacher gifts, the best gift you can give a teacher is the card with the note written in it, thanking them genuinely for what they do. The gift itself, I really did not need or want the gift.
I call bullshit on
no,
that.
I'm 100%. I used to sit and cry over the cards.
Okay, I mean, that is lovely. It's all heartwarming and whatever. Great. But I'm trying to think of things to get for the kids' teachers for Christmas
If you really have to get them something, get a bottle of wine.
But what if they don't drink? Like, I feel like one of our
Sorry,
kids...
are they a teacher or...
I'm just not sure. Like, I don't know that either of my kids' teachers drink, actually.
Yeah, okay. That's it, which is more of a thing these days. Probably when I was teaching, every teacher drank. Whereas now I think there's a lot more people that are alcohol free, which is great. Good on them. Like, I love that. Good for you. But how do you cope through the day then?
I don't know. And both of my kids, I said, what do you want to get your teachers for Christmas this year?
Yeah.
And they both had different ideas and they were both very thoughtful. Like, I thought they really thought about the person and so I've just gone down that path. But
unusually my youngest has nailed it for his teacher, I think. And it's so simple and easy, which has been
I love
great.
that.
Whereas,
are you going to reveal?
Yeah, why not? She's into AFL football. She actually works part-time for an AFL footy team, as we know. But so he wanted to get her earrings because she loves wearing special different earrings on a Friday. Apparently she wears egg and bacon earrings. She listens to this podcast occasionally. So she might hear me talking about this. Apparently she wears egg and bacon earrings on each year on a Friday because she has eggs and bacon for breakfast on a Friday.
Oh,
I'd
my
love to
God,
know
I
if
love
this is
that.
true because if Brodie's noticed this or she's talked about it, I love it. That's so cute. So he was telling me all about this and how she likes changing up her earrings. And so, then we put the two together and he's found these pair of earrings that are like little AFL footballs.
That is really thoughtful.
Yeah, so
I love that.
So I think he's nailed it. But Mason can't bring me anything this year, unfortunately. I'm going to have to work that one out myself.
Yeah. Oliver's all over it with his teacher. And Lucas had a really nice idea for his as well. And I've just supplemented it with something else because, it wasn't quite, it was thoughtful, but it wasn't, enough. Really. Anyway, so that's all done and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe we're at this stage of the year already.
It's insane. Yeah. Crazy.
Crazy. So in light of this being our last episode for the year, we put out a bit of a question on our social media. Once this is released, will be a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And we asked people to give us suggestions for cases that they wanted us to cover. And we've decided based on suggestions, and thank you to everybody who's replied, we are covering Grace Mullane today.
Yeah, actually it came from quite a few people. This one was mentioned, so it's a big one and a good one. And when it got mentioned to me originally, I was like, I have watched that Netflix show, but I was like, is there much in that, But yeah, we've got into it more now, and it's like, well, there's a lot to this. So
I feel like every time we go, is there much to it? We still can bang out an episode that's over an hour long.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Surprisingly enough, I'd actually knew nothing about this case.
Yeah.
Once I got into it, I remember now hearing bits and pieces about it, but I didn't put it all together that this was the one person.
I don't remember hearing about this at the time at all. So it wasn't until I think it came out as a Netflix special that I knew anything about it. But yeah, it's Did you remember hearing about it when it happened? Because it was 2018 that this occurred.
Yeah, I did. Okay. I do remember.
Yeah.
And I just remember it being all about Tinder. Like, I feel like that was the focus of the media at the time. So I didn't then put together, once you were telling me this story, that it was the same
case.
Same case.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it was an interesting one to delve into.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we can get into this probably a bit more as we talk about the case, but like, the whole Tinder thing is a bit. I'm on a fence of like. Well, I guess it comes down a little bit the Ashley Madison one that we did recently too, of like the fact of how much is the app itself to blame for things. You know, and people sort of, you know, there's this stigma now around Tinder. You know, the Tinder swindler. This is the guy's kind of known as the Tinder killer in some ways. Like, and so I mean, I don't use apps for dating, or any. Never have. I dare say you have never used.
No.
Apps for dating. High school sweethearts.
Yeah.
So I don't have any experience in coming at it from that perspective, but all I know is that friends I know who've used them, I'm always like, tell me where you are and, you know, make sure you're staying in touch and things.
But also the types of things that then people experience after going on dates after meeting these people. Like, same, I've got acquaintances and friends who I know who've used the apps and on the odd occasion it turns out really well. But then also there's many multiples of occasions beyond that, but where it seems to be
Tinder as a, like, specifically from what I'm getting, like, you know, that Tinder seems to have something about it, which I think it's around I know a lot was mentioned through this case that Tinder is a bit more around looks, and that's something, whereas other apps aren't built around that so much, I think.
Okay.
But I don't know how much of like these sorts of people who do the wrong thing to women, you know, and meet people and do, you know, is it the app that's facilitating this to be more prevalent, or is there just more people like this who are a-holes?
Look, I think the a-holes have always been out there. It's just been...
This is like gives them an avenue to pursue things that they would have otherwise been able to.
But in answer to your question about like the responsibility of Tinder and the apps in these situations... After this, and this might be getting a little bit ahead of us here, but after this this case took place, Tinder actually did release a statement.
Oh, right.
Specifically about this case.
Yeah, right.
And they said, I've written it down because I was really interested that they almost took a little bit of responsibility. They said that they were deeply saddened by Grace's death and they're looking into safety measures to ensure that things like this don't happen.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how you can though. Because
once
someone meets up with someone, like, I don't think that an app is responsible for that.
No. And Tinder's whole thing is that we allow you to meet people. What happens beyond there is nothing to do with us, which is fair. Like, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And once you're meeting up in person, you're then consenting, or in some we'll get into that a lot.
Definitely comes into this case. Yeah,
but you're there of your own volition.
Yeah,
that's not got anything to do with Tinder.
No. But then I just feel like then like the onus always falls on the female around safety.
Yeah,
and how as a society we can shift that. Yeah, I don't know. It's really. It's a bigger question than just I think today and here on our podcast. It
absolutely is.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay. Grace Emmy Rose Mullane was born on the 2nd of December in 1996. She was born in the UK, and it sounds like she came from a really lovely, very close-knit family. I think she had mum and dad and 2 brothers, is that right?
Yeah, 2 older brothers. They were from a previous marriage of her dad, I believe. So she was the only daughter of David and Gillian Millane, but she was very much loved by her brothers and very close to them as well. So, very beautiful family. Yeah.
She decided to take a gap year as, you know, I think it's less of a thing in Australia to take a gap year, isn't it? But a lot of people in Europe and the UK especially will take a year between school and university, or university and even starting work, which is what Grace has done.
Yes.
So she graduated from the University of Lincoln and decided to take a gap year. She had left home, she was so young. She was 20 years old.
Well, I mean, in this, you'll find that she's reported it's either 21 or 22.
Yep.
So depending on, unfortunately, when she passed away, she was 21 or 22.
Yeah. So she'd spent, was it 6 weeks or so in Argentina, in South America?
Yeah, Peru she was in, and she did all the Inca Trail, all that sort of stuff, and with a group, she was with other people, touring, doing that area. So, yeah, pretty awesome stuff she would have seen.
And then apparently she was sort of like looking for, safe places for solo female travellers to travel around. And New Zealand was, very high up on the list because New Zealand is a really safe country.
It is, yeah. Not to say they don't have crime, but it's, very safe country. And
so she decided to head over to New Zealand, and she arrived there on was it the 20th of November?
19th, I thought. No,
29th.
Yep.
I think 20th of November in 2018, after her 6 weeks of travelling around South America. She travelled around the upper North Island, so the Bay of Islands. Have you ever been there?
No, I haven't done much of I've only done the South Island of New Zealand. I haven't done really much of the North, actually none of the North Island at all.
Yeah, I've only been to the North.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's stunning. Like back in the day, the laboratory that I work for opened up a branch over in Auckland.
Yep.
And so a group of us went over there to help them sort of get going. And my God, it is such a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
The South Island is stunning too. So, I mean, it's incredible. New Zealand, no joke, I think must be one of the most spectacular places in the world.
Yeah.
I remember driving along and just kind of going, oh my God, that is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And then you kept driving and you turn around another corner and go, oh, wait, how did we top that? We just topped that.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Yeah. They've got the most beautiful lakes and national parks and mountains. It is a stunning, stunning place.
Yeah.
So Grace was, looking around and having a grand old time. She arrived in Auckland, so in the capital city up there on the North Island, on the 30th of November. And she'd booked some further travel around the 2nd of December. So I think she was going to travel to the South Island, is that right?
Yeah, I think she was planning on spending a few nights, in Auckland itself before moving on to do other things. She was planning sort of a 2-week stay in total in New Zealand. So she had, another bit of travel to do from Auckland.
Yeah, so she was moving around pretty quickly, really.
Yeah.
Do you know where she was going after?
No, I can't remember now. I do remember reading it, but I can't remember where it was now. So I think it was more North Island she was still sticking to. Although, no, I think she had plans to head south.
I think on the 2nd of December, her plans were to head south.
Yes.
I meant beyond New Zealand. Do you know where she
I know that she was due back in the UK around June for there was a family wedding.
Yeah.
So I believe she was planning on further things like probably Australia from there and potentially, I guess, some Southeast Asian countries maybe.
Sort of working way back up,
I think, to the UK from memory. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. She was in constant contact with her family throughout her, the 6 weeks in South America and then through to her travels around Auckland and the North Island of New Zealand.
Yeah.
So much so that she would have often really frequent, texts back and forth. I mean, we're talking 2018, social media, easy to communicate. You've got WhatsApp, you've got
if she
everywhere
didn't speak to someone via text or phone call, there was something on social media. So there was daily contact of an update of some sort to someone in the UK around what she was up to.
If not multiple times in a day. Have you looked at her Instagram and Facebook posts?
So she's quite a talented artist too. So she actually had two different Instagram accounts. One was all of her artwork and one was her social sort of stuff. A very talented artist. Incredible. Yeah.
And even like her photography, just, the posts that she puts up. I mean, we're probably the generation, sort of before her, and some of our Instagram posts are a bit like, I look back on things that I've posted in the past and I'm like, fucking how embarrassing.
The filters you used to put on it and shit.
Oh God, it's mortifying. But hers are so tasteful and she's so young. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, that sort of speaks to, where she placed value and where she was sort of, happy to be putting her life out into to the ether. And what a vibrant and incredible young woman she was.
So courageous to go on her own and do these travels. She obviously was someone who'd get along with people very easily because she'd mix in with everyone. And from all accounts, on the 30th of November, she arrived in Auckland and she was staying at a backpackers named called the Base Backpackers. And that night that she arrived, she was at the pub. I think there was a pub on the roof at the backpackers, and and she'd mixed in with a few people from the backpackers, and which is all what backpacking places are all about. But felt comfortable on her own to infiltrate other people and find out what their travels were and have a few drinks and stuff and get to know people. So and talk about what they were going to do next and potentially go together or and that sort of thing, or find other ideas of things you could see. So she was really an outgoing social person, obviously just an easy to get along with. So yeah, lovely.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Her family became suspicious. So as we were saying, they've had so much contact with her, whether it be direct or indirect through social media, over the what was almost 8 weeks of her travels to that point. And they became incredibly suspicious because it was actually her birthday on the 1st of December, or 2nd of December, sorry. And she was turning 22. So they'd been sending messages to say happy birthday, tried calling her, and they had no response, which was highly, highly unusual. Yeah. So much so that they immediately reported her missing.
Well, I think on the 5th of December, her family reported her missing. Yeah, officially with the police.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were trying to figure out, though, people right from the get-go, people she'd made contact with, and they were looking through her social media to be like, oh, I wonder if we can sort of figure out who that person is and say, oh, have you seen Grace around? How awful would it be to be half a world away from your child and not know what's going on with them? Yeah,
it'd be absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Can't even imagine it. So, you know, they've done their very best on their own to try and figure out what was going on. But as you said, they've reported her missing to the police. And I believe, did her dad immediately come over?
He did. He immediately came over. So he arrived on, I want to say it was the 7th.
I think
he arrived on the 7th because on the 7th he gave a press conference. Yeah.
So basically, so she was staying at this backpackers, and so a couple of days after, so the last contact they'd had with her was, I think, the morning of the 2nd. Is that right?
So, no, sorry,
the 1st.
No, so on the night of the 1st, her last contact was to a friend, and it was during the evening for her in New Zealand, and you can actually see it on CCTV when she sends this message to a friend saying, I'm on a date, it's going really well, and we're really clicking, I'll let you know tomorrow how it's gone. So that was sent at approximately around 8:30-ish her time in New Zealand to a friend back in the UK, and that's the last known contact to someone back home. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was on the night of the 1st.
Okay, so that was the last known contact. So have her family, I'm assuming, have known this?
I'd say once they're all sort of sending messages to her about happy birthday and none of them are receiving responses, I think the connections are all being made between family and friends saying, I haven't heard from her a response either. I haven't had a response. Like that snowballed pretty quickly that they were all finding out that they weren't getting a response.
Yeah. And then a couple of days after this last contact, there's a really interesting Facebook post a comment on a Facebook, or was it Instagram? One or the other.
Facebook,
doesn't really matter. By a man.
Well, on the app, the name was Jesse Shane, and the comment was beautiful, very radiant.
On a photo, there was just a photo of Grace.
Yeah, and that comment was made. There was a bit of confusion at first that comment had been made on the 2nd. But it actually had done something funny in the app, but it was actually made. That comment was actually put on there on the 1st of December. So they worked that out eventually, but still, that was the last comment or anything on her Facebook and social media, and it was a male's name and someone that didn't link up to anything else on her social media. So that was another interesting little tidbit.
And that was what the police kind of saw once she was reported missing, and they started looking into what was going on. And so they've gone to the backpackers. Well,
in Auckland, it is so heavily CCTV. It blows my mind. So you can actually go onto YouTube, and I think it was the New Zealand Herald have uploaded a full, it's like 50 minutes worth. It's not even all of it by any means. There's a whole lot more CCTV, but you can actually map out the timeline on there pretty clearly in this 50 minutes of CCTV of what goes on over a course of a few days.
What blows my mind is that you track them and you can see on CCTV they're walking down this road, and then it cuts to the next CCTV and there's no cut though. Nah. You can see them like it's a continuous thing.
It's unbelievable.
There is CCTV everywhere.
And this guy, it did not help this guy's case whatsoever because it's all very mapped out. But what they did was they went to the CCTV and went, right, we know she's staying at base backpackers, and they found her exiting base backpackers on the CCTV, and were then able to track her. So they have a really huge team on this real quick. They're New Zealand police officers, which all credit to them. They did an amazing job on this.
Very much so.
So the CCTV, they tracked her from there to then meeting when she walked out of the backpackers to this place called Sky City. where you see her standing in this area.
Let's talk about this.
Yep.
This got me good. Mm-hmm. So in the footage, please go and have a look at it.
Yeah.
You can see him. So he's gone and had a beer at a pub beforehand, or
so they went back and then tracked him, and you can see where he's.
So she left her backpackers at I think it was 5:43, something like that, and she's gone, as you said, walked over to Sky City, which is where they said they were going to meet. Previous to this, he's gone to some pub just down the road. I think he's done 3 pints or something, a huge amount of beer in a really, really short amount of time.
Yeah.
And the CCTV tracks him coming out of that pub and walking up the road. Then it cuts to a scene where you can see Grace standing, waiting for him.
Yeah.
And then he walks up and it's he sees her, and then he does a 360.
Double backs.
He's do I want to go there? And he literally walks around in a circle. Mm-hmm. And then she's obviously seen him, so he's kind of trapped in a way, as in not trapped, but he's been caught out. I'm did he look at her and go, oh, nah?
Well, I don't think you would, because she's,
stunning,
very attractive girl, but I don't know.
But why?
I've watched that multiple times myself, kind of going, what's going on there? What's he doing?
My only thing is that he's oh, she's not what I expected. I'm fucking off.
Because
if only he had.
Oh, we wish. And I really feel like that's a moment in time where it's that sliding door moment of if only he just did turn around. But then that doesn't track with his previous records, because he's a prolific Tinder user, as we'll find out. But he isn't someone who would have walked away, I don't think. So I don't know whether it was, am I ready? As in, have I got my game face on?
Yeah,
that's how I kind of ended up taking it, of she is, maybe I actually took it as, shit, she looks like her pictures. She's as good as I thought. Whoa, have I switched on the right charismatic personality yet? I almost feel like it's that, I don't know, it's him recalibrating.
It's he's psyching himself up for it.
Yeah,
getting his
I'm in here.
game face on.
This is a good one. I don't know. Okay. I just really...
I had a totally different interpretation.
No, I switched between the two, but watching it repeatedly and knowing then what I know of him, that was where I got to with it, that it's it's him going, oh, this is too good to be true almost.
Okay.
And I really honestly think that was more it of I'm going in, but oh God, am I ready?
Okay. Yeah. So then they go up and they have a little bit of an awkward hug, as you do when you're meeting someone you don't know, and you're obviously on a date, but it's weird. I'm sure it's weird.
That initial, watching them on the CC, it's so typical of two people meeting for the first time of awkward, but okay, I'm attracted, but this is awkward now. But they seem to chat the whole time as they walk along, and
so they head inside into Sky City and they go up to Andy's Burger Bar. And you can see again CCTV footage of them arriving at the bar, having a look at a menu, ordering some drinks, and trying to find somewhere to have a seat. Let me just get the timings of this. So this was all happened at around 6 p.m. Then at 7:16, they leave Andy's Burger Bar and head over to a Mexican bar. And they order 2 pitchers of margarita and 1 pitcher of a sangria. So that's quite a bit of alcohol. And they drank those 3 massive, pitchers, jugs of drink in an hour and 15 minutes.
They were downing some drinks, but... we can get to his drinking habits and hers.
So you can, again, see CCTV footage of them at the bar buying these drinks. He's paying for everything.
It looks that way that he's paying. And
definitely. And he's making a show of it. He's showing things around. He's making, even the way he gets his wallet out of his pocket, he makes a show of it. Because he's a hero. At 8:30 p.m, they decide to go to the Bluestone Room, which is a bar close by. It's actually close to the hotel that he lives at. So he's told Grace that he lives at this hotel. It's called City Life Hotel. Did you Google it? It's not the nicest of the hotels.
No,
but
the room's pretty ordinary, and
it's pretty dingy looking, and it's not what you would imagine a fancy sort
not
of
that something you'd imagine someone who's told Grace, his date, that he is an oil manager.
Offshore oil manager,
whatever that is.
Is he implying that he managed? By the way, not true.
No.
Is he implying that he like manages oil rigs or something?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know what he thinks he's telling her, but
I just think, I mean, he came up with lots of different things. We now
so
know
many lies.
as the trials and stuff went on, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll talk about that
get into
soon,
his
about all
string
of his
of lies.
jobs. Yeah, all of his jobs that he's had.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's at around this time, as you said, that that Grace texts her friend, and exactly what you said, things are going really well, and, you know,
but
there's a bit of a spark there. But, oh, my God, the CCTV footage of them inside this bluestone room blows my mind.
Yeah, and like for the police, it definitely gave them a red flag immediately because they went and watched everything, every little detail. But, yeah, how he behaves there when behind Grace's back is interesting.
Even the way he kisses her. So they're at a point now where they're obviously quite inebriated. I don't know the proportion of which drinks everyone's had, but I'm guessing they're both, you know, drinking a substantial amount of alcohol. The way he kisses her on those CCTV footage on the CCTV footage in the bluestone room, he basically like grabs her neck and like pulls her to him.
Yep.
It's predatory.
It is. Yep. I watching it is really uncomfortable, and I think a lot of that is because what's to come, but also just looking at it, kind of going, I don't know, from a first date perspective, he was, and look, different people like different things. You know, but he seems quite forceful, and yeah.
I mean, she's going in as in like it's not like she's trying to get away from it or anything like that. She's obviously a willing participant
at that point.
At some point during the night, after this, she goes off to the toilet. What does he do?
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, so she stands up and goes to the toilet. Like first of all, he goes to the toilet and comes back. They're kind of doing a bit of a, you know, like you go, then I'll go.
Yep.
You know, hold the table. Yeah, because if you get up and move both of you, you lost your table, and you know drinks are there on the table. But then it's her turn. She gets up to go to the toilet. He immediately grabs her handbag and rummages through it, and then puts it back on her seat, and then grabs her drink and downs a heap of drink out of her bottle and puts that back on the table before she comes back from the bathroom.
It's so bizarre.
It's really weird.
Like, what was he looking for in her bag?
This is it. Like, what was he doing?
Like, what can you find in a woman's bag?
Oh, God, do you want a tampon, mate?
Yeah, like seriously.
What?
Or was he going to, like, was he looking
cash?
for money? Like, what was he looking for?
I don't know. But he's an odd character.
Oh, he's the oddest of all characters.
Yes. So, yeah, the CCTV footage is very interesting.
Yeah, so at 9:40 p.m, so they've been at this bar for about an hour.
Yeah.
And they head back to his hotel, which is, I think, is it next door? Or
it's not
really
far.
close?
Because there was definitely walking, because you watch them on the CCTV, at least one street sort of down they walk. Okay. And they're walking quite wobbly. Like, you know, they've had many drinks. And so you see them enter into City Life hotels and head up in the elevator.
You see them both walk into the
elevator, and they press the buttons, but you can see him putting his card like back into his wallet, you know, because you've got to swipe your card on the elevator. You know, you've got to be a resident to be able to get the elevator to go up, kind of thing. He does that, puts it back in his card. You can see him like swaying as he's putting his card back in his wallet. So it's very clear, inebriated, and both of them. But yeah, they head up to the room. But unfortunately, that CCTV footage is the last we see of Grace. And there is CCTV on the staircase as well as the elevator, but I mean, you don't see any of that because she's not there. There is no footage of her exiting that building that we see her as a person walking or leaving that building. That's the last we see her, really. So the next day obviously is... Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say what we know from then what the police have gathered. Should we get to that?
Oh, now? let's wait one second. Okay. I was going to just sort of double back a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously, as we said, so that's where the CCTV footage sort of ends for us in terms of that's the last we see of Grace. So then it's the path of course is that the 2nd of December is her birthday. No messages, messages are coming back from her. The family get worried. Her dad gets on a flight, and on the 5th they report her missing. So basically, the police are now also, who is she? Where are we at? On the 6th of December, the police have tracked this Jesse down. That they found him on the 5th. Contacted him on the 5th and said, we need to have a chat. He was like, I can't right now, I'm at work, but tomorrow morning I'll come in and have an interview. So he was very willing to do that at that time. So he went in for an interview on the 6th. So basically, this interview that he does on the 6th is very interesting. So I don't know whether we want to go to hear about who Jesse is before we hear about his interviews.
Yeah, how about we do that?
Yeah. So
that gives a little context.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of explain who Jesse Shane Kempson is. So obviously this is someone she's met on a dating app, so she doesn't know any of this about him. So let's just keep that real clear that that Grace has met up with someone who she knows nothing about, but we know this about him when we meet him, basically. So Jesse Kempson was born on the 28th of December, 1991, so he was approximately about 27 years of age at this time. But he has a very interesting background. So at 9 years of age, his parents separated, and his mum and younger brother at that point moved to Australia. So he's left in New Zealand, and he is raised by his grandfather for a short period of time, and then his father as well. Now, his father, from reports, seems to have been maybe somewhat violent or aggressive around Jesse. So he's experienced a lot of that sort of in his life, but also a lot of rejection then from his mum who's moved overseas. I think that puts an interesting context onto things, like why a mum would leave one son in one country and move to the other. What would motivate someone to do that? I just query.
You and I both have 2 boys. Mm-hmm. I could not.
No, I could not at all. But it just makes me question a lot of things. Yep. Was she exiting the violent and relationship, and she had no choice in that? And then in saying no choice, did she see traits in Jesse that she wasn't able to cope with, and it was easier in a lot of ways to leave him where he was in New Zealand? I don't know. I don't want to judge at all in that, because I just feel like there's a whole lot to that situation that we don't know.
Yep.
But I feel like there's something there that as a mother, you kind of go, there's something here that doesn't make sense as to leaving one child behind.
If she was seeing things in Jesse that were sort of meaning that he was heading down the path of the dad, wouldn't you want to remove him from that situation? Or
is it too far gone?
Or I don't know.
I don't know.
As you said, we can't judge somebody.
No.
We're not in her shoes.
No.
It's an interesting circumstance, I think.
So that rejection from his mother, the violence from his father, maybe we've already alluded to the fact that his lying is just absolutely prolific. And is that some sort of escapism for him, to create this life that he would have liked to have had that he didn't get to have as a child? Interesting. But so in 2013, he actually did leave New Zealand and went to Australia. He did try to reconnect with his mum and brother in Australia when he was here, but that didn't happen. So that, again, is interesting.
Further
what
rejection.
Happens. Yeah, it's further rejection, which is really sad for him. But I'm just really curious as to why.
Agreed.
Yeah. But basically his move from New Zealand to Australia at the time was under some simmering tensions back in New Zealand with family. So there was lots of lying going on and stealing that his family were really sick and tired of. So he was in Australia for 3 years. He had some interesting interactions here with people. There's been some interviews around housemates and stuff that people he worked with. A lot of stories. There was one particular story I heard around where the housemates had there were females and males living in this house. He had like the smallest bedroom in the house because that's all he could afford. Yet he was telling everyone that his family were restaurateurs and that they had millions and millions of dollars, and he was out there scoping the place to, open their next restaurant. And they're like, but wait, you can't even afford the rent that, the lowest rent in the house, you can't even afford. But it actually got worse than that. They were finding that when he drank alcohol, he became very aggressive. And to the point where the females in the house began to take knives from the kitchen into their bedrooms and sleep with them under their pillows because they felt that uncomfortable. There was one particular incident in one share house that she let the other housemates know of this, whatever this incident was that night, and they were all banded together and kind of went, we have to get him out. Like, he can't live here. That's not okay. You can't feel like that. They were in contact with the landlord about it and everything. And so they'd planned the next morning as a group to go to him and say, you need to move out. He must have got wind of that or had some sort of inkling it was going to happen. And all of a sudden he was like, my mum died, I'm leaving, I have to go to the funeral and stuff. So he left. So whilst he was out of the house doing whatever he was doing with this funeral, which his mum didn't die apparently, as far as we were, it was a lie as well.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. They basically they evicted him at that point, and they basically said, yeah, that's it, you're not coming back. However, after that happened and he had officially moved out and was no longer in the house, they would often find that they would smell his aftershave near windows.
It's so fucking creepy. I remember, this is a total tangent, but I remember Narelle Fraser, who's one of our favourite Victorian detectives. I was listening to a podcast that so it wasn't her podcast, she was being interviewed for another podcast, and she was talking about when she worked in sex crimes, and she said, you have no idea how many times I have gone to the scene of a crime, like it might be knickers missing from a clothesline on like repeated things, and I'll go and do a walk around the house and I'll find tissues with semen in them at a window. And I think that's kind of what was going on in this situation.
I thought you were going to say she'd smell the Lynx spray.
Oh my God. My eldest has just discovered Lynx body spray, and I was just saying to Meg, like, his bedroom smells like a bloody French whorehouse or something. Like it's like he could not spray more of that stuff on himself. But anyway,
sounds like this guy could
totally
too.
So these fucking creeps, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They come and they peeping toms, literally.
Yeah.
And they're looking through windows and like masturbating outside. But the way that Narelle was talking about this, it was like, wasn't that uncommon?
Standard. Oh God.
Like, it's typical behaviour of, and then obviously these are behaviours that then tend to escalate if they're not caught and intervened with early enough.
Yeah. So just the lying that he did, like it was so out of hand. So I list some of the lies that he would tell were that he was an oil company manager. He was the cousin of a prominent All Black, that he had gang connections. Another one was that he was an ex-gang member and now he had flipped to being an informant to the police. Another one was that all of his friends were police officers, and also that he had cancer.
Yes.
So the lies were everywhere. There was the tangle that he had absolutely created for himself. I don't know how he could keep track of it all. I don't think he did, to be honest.
Didn't.
People caught on to him very quickly.
He wasn't clever enough.
No, wasn't smart enough to actually tie them all up or anything. People were onto him.
Yep.
Some people who have lived with him said things like that he was very chatty and he was reasonably easy to live with to begin with, but usually the pattern was that from after that point, the alcohol consumption would increase and then he would become aggressive. And that quickly things would not make sense in terms of his explanations for stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So upon his return to New Zealand, then after his stay in Australia, he actually put a message on Facebook, and this message only went to like his family and friends, not to the extensive list
public.
Wasn't public to anyone else. But the message that he put on Facebook on his return to New Zealand was, "Hey everyone, I just wanted to touch base with you all. I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life so far that I'm not proud of." No, sorry, there's no punctuation in this, so I'm just going to please bear with me. Sorry. "I'm not proud of some of which have greatly affected others. I firstly want to extend the most sincere apologies for this. I've done a lot of reflection over time and have narrowed down the cause of it all, and with that being said, I believe you all deserve to know. My clear arrogance and selfishness has truly affected the relationship I have with people in my personal life. I know that I was growing up emotionally, mentally. When we grow up, we make mistakes. That's how we improve. In the exam of life, you can't retest yourself with the same question paper. But with that being said, we can change how we treat each other, and over time I've learnt that every action has a reaction. But I've also learnt how much compassion we all have as people. I've recently been diagnosed with severe anxiety and currently take medication to keep this under control." That's actually not a lie. He had been diagnosed with anxiety and was taking medication. Mm-hmm. "Putting all that aside, I just want anyone who I've hurt/let down to know I'm truly sorry from the bottom of my heart." I think he knows what to say, but then the actions don't necessarily back that.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's posted that. I've heard... Oh, no, it was a written interview where I think it was his cousin, I think.
Yep.
It was somehow related, but a similar age to him, was like, well, it was all bullshit because he just went back to his old ways as soon as he came back. Like, it's not like he was on the path to salvation and changed anything.
No, yeah. But he knew that he needed people.
Yeah.
So, you know, how can I manipulate them to get what I want?
Yeah.
I'll say an apology, and but the actions don't back.
Do you know why he was living at the hotel?
Not really.
No, I don't either. I was like, what I wanted to know was, and I couldn't find it anywhere, why are you living in a hotel, mate? I mean, I know it was a shitty hotel and it was probably not that expensive, but was it because he couldn't keep a I think that share house situation going?
Yeah, I think he'd realised that wasn't working for him using share housing. And so he had to live on his own, and the only way he could do that was by doing that. I know
he told one of his Tinder dates that he was living in the hotel because he was this offshore oil manager and he was coming and going, and
maybe it was just part of that whole idea that he could kind of
conjure
look
up
like that's what's going on. He I know that he'd only just been recently let go from a job that's in the area, so you know, he probably moved in the area for this job that he did have, but they let him go pretty quick because he was doing some pretty dodgy stuff there. What is he doing? He was making phone calls. He was meant to make so many phone calls, but he was actually calling himself, and so it was all fraudulent what he was doing within his job, that they said, nah, you're out, see you later. So that had happened, I think, maybe a week or two prior to meeting Grace.
2 weeks before meeting Grace. Yeah. Was terminated. Yeah.
So basically, that gives you the picture of this person who the police are now going to interview in relation to, this is the last known person to have seen Grace according to their CCTV and the interaction on Facebook. Yeah. So they bring him in on the 6th of December to interview him, and he tells them a story of them meeting up and having a great date, but about 8 p.m. they separated and went their own ways. He reckoned that he went and then had more drinks at another bar until like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and says that he was so intoxicated, doesn't remember anything else about the night. So that was the story he gave. The police then, they knew a lot more than this already. They knew more. So they pulled out, they basically sort of went, oh, thanks, mate, just give me one more minute, and because they actually asked him for a DNA sample, which he agreed to give. But the cop actually walks out of the room and then comes back in and he goes, we can leave the DNA sample for now. We'll come back to that. Just, we don't need to worry about it now, which I think was making him feel like, I've got him. Like they're feeling comfortable with me that they don't need that.
Yep.
Because then what he does is he pulls out a photo, a CCTV image of him on the elevator at 8 a.m. on the 2nd of December with a suitcase. And the cop just sort of shows it to him and says, he says really not much at all. He leaves this open air.
He does that a lot in this interview.
Yeah, I love it when cops do it.
Yeah,
I'm no good at it. I can't have quiet.
I was like, well, I've got questions and I need to know blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, cops are very good at this. And so he just puts the photo there and he's like, tell me about this. And then there's just silence. And you can just see Jesse in this. This is, you can actually see these interrogations and things. So
but you can see his body language change.
Body language changes.
Kind of like, he kind of tenses and sort of sits up. Yep. He puts his hands between his legs. It's like he's trying to hold on to something.
Yep.
And then he also he's taking drinks of water. He's like, you can just tell he's so uneasy.
Stressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically he says, I've got it a bit mixed up. I must have got up earlier than I thought. That he'd said that he got up at 10 a.m. or something. And so then he explains the suitcase and says that he bought the suitcase because he was going to have to move out of where he was living, which, okay, yeah. But then he says, but then he really is adamant around this, but I've still got that suitcase. If that's what you're implying, which the cop has implied nothing. He said nothing. I love this. And he's just digging his own grave here of like, I've still got that. You can go and get it. It's in the room. It's in the room. I've still got that suitcase. So the cop is very, very good at he keeps it very calm, but he starts putting the pressure on and starts bringing out a couple more CCTV images. It's just putting their cards on the table of like, we know more, mate.
More than what
and here's your opportunity to come forward. At this point, so in New Zealand, they don't have the rule of being able to detain people for 48 hours. They either have to arrest or let them go. So the cops decide they do let him go because they don't have enough to arrest him on. They want more information. They want to find more. They need more time.
They need the time because they're gathering all this. Can you even imagine how difficult it would be? The way that they've tracked them through the night, that would take so much manpower.
It was a huge team to do that,
to put this all together.
Yeah.
The other thing, No, go.
The
other thing that they were looking at was his Google history and all of that kind of thing.
So they also get a search warrant for his apartment. So obviously having the fact that
his hotel room,
sorry. I think they were sort of apartments, not hotel rooms. Like I got the vibe.
I think it was like a serviced apartment type of deal.
Yeah. So they basically, at this point, because there's not enough adding up, it gave them enough what he gave in that interview that they knew he was lying and they could prove he's lying. So therefore, they could get a warrant for his apartment. It was for the hotel room. So that gave them enough to do all that. Yep. So they let him go, but knowing that they're going to be able to search the room and all these sorts of things, which gave them the time to do that. So that gave them more time to look into more CCTV footage as well and get all their evidence and all their ducks in a row.
That's right.
So
what they discovered is that, so they obviously had access to his devices and phone records, and they discovered that at 1:29 a.m. on the 2nd of December, he has Googled hottest fire and Waitakere Ranges. Okay, so keep that in your mind.
And a lot of other things. We'll get into it.
Well, that comes in a minute.
Yep.
At 1:40 a.m., he watches 8 clips of hardcore pornography. 6 hours later, he Googles. So this is about 7 o'clock, 7:30. He Googles car hire, duffel bags with wheels, rigor mortis, large suitcases, industrial strength cleaner, and, this is my favourite, flesh-eating birds.
Yeah, just checking if there's any vultures in the area.
Yeah, might see if that can maybe assist me.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
Dude.
So
what the absolute
what the actual fuck? They also, obviously, with the search of the apartment, so I guess we can actually go back a little bit here to the CCTV footage. What else they found on that CCTV footage, which will then highlight what they actually found in the apartment as well. So basically, he said that they separated at 8 p.m. and went their own ways. On the CCTV footage, it is very clear that they don't do that. That's when they went on to the third bar.
Yep.
Third.
To the Bluestone.
They end up, as we said, got back to their apartment at 9:40. You can see her go up into the room. That's all. We've seen all that. The following day, though, at 8 a.m., he gets up and he goes into the lift and goes downstairs, goes to the atrium and purchases a large suitcase. There's so much movement here. I'm like, sorry, mate, but can you please get your shit together and like do things all at once? He is in and out of that place.
He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Oh, it just confuses the hell out of me. So he gets back to the apartment with the suitcase, then goes out again, goes to Woolies, buys a heap of cleaning products, just cleaning products. Goes back to the apartment.
Hide it. And the thing is, the Woolies, he does self-checkout.
Yeah.
You can see this, it's like literally, on top of his CCTV, you can see literally every item that he's
purchasing. Their CCTV footage is so clear.
So good.
Yeah. At 10:25, he goes and rents a car. And again, in the cab, clear shot of him in the cab.
And he's stressing in that cab.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He rubs his face and he's like he's like shifting in his chair.
I see him as being quite, yep, this is what I'm doing. Like, I don't see panic at all.
Oh, no panic.
No
panic. I agree with that. But he's like, I feel like he's not agitated. He's, maybe agitated. He's wanting to get.
Yeah.
I agree that he's not panicked. Yeah.
So he goes and rents this red car from Apex Rentals, brings that back to the apartment. At 2:53 p.m, he leaves again and heads to Revelry Bar. And at this bar, he meets a Tinder date. So that has a date with another Tinder woman. Thank goodness, and we can get into her story when we get to the trial and stuff, but she did not feel comfortable around him, and you can see on the CCTV footage as they walk out, they go in opposite directions. Now, apparently her car was parked in the same direction as he was walking, but she was like, oh, no, my car's this way, and walked the opposite direction of what he was because she was like, nah, not going to partake in that.
Yeah.
So good luck, good to her. I mean, well done, because it could have been, I don't know. Could he have taken her back to his apartment, like with body still in the room?
No, but she describes him as like, she said he was very odd. She was really creeped out by him.
Oh, he talked about weird stuff on the date.
He talked about really weird shit. Like, he talked about how he's friends with all these cops, and that the cops are really concerned about finding all these dead bodies in the Waitakere forest.
Oh, because the dogs can only sniff the body 4 feet underground. So if if you bury it more than that, then they don't get found.
Turns out that's not true.
No, that's not true.
Police dogs are their sense of smell is so sensitive that is not even close to being true. He brought up rough sex with her, talking about it.
Yeah, and then weirdly, she brought up a topic of some guy who just recently been done for murder, and his reaction to that was, "Oh, isn't it awful how one guy can just make one mistake and end up being in prison for life?" Ew, fucking gross.
He also admitted to this date, so she was a journalist.
Yeah,
admitted to him that he'd been shopping for suitcases that morning, and it was really hard to find one big enough for all his sports equipment.
Yeah. So yeah, he was yuck. So that date only lasted about an hour and a half. So he gets back to the apartment at about 5:40 in the evening. Exits again of the apartment at 7:12 and goes to a shopping complex again. He leaves again to go to Woolies and gets a cleaning machine.
Yeah, you know those like carpet cleaning machines you can hire from Woolies? He goes and gets one of those.
Yep, goes to the apartment. He's only in the apartment for about half an hour. So he used this carpet cleaning machine for like half an hour and then takes it back to Woolies at about 9 o'clock at night. So floors me. I mean, who cleans a serviced apartment, like especially with a carpet cleaning machine even?
For no reason.
No reason. He's just getting into the elevator with this carpet cleaning machine. No one thought to go, mate, what do you need that for? I don't know what. I mean, you know, I guess you're not on your mind going, oh, maybe there's a.
If it is more like a serviced apartment type thing, then maybe there isn't someone like at a front desk or something to question him.
Oh, there was though. No, there was a full lobby with people with.
But was there someone was it manned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's CC footage of that entirely. That there's multiple people at the lobby there,
and no one thought, okay, right, that's weird.
Yeah. So at 9:30 that night, you see him leaving his room with 2 suitcases on a luggage trolley.
And he's pushing them
One
hard.
of them, the one on the bottom, is clearly very heavy. He's got then one sitting on top that kind of moves. It's probably got nothing in it. I don't know.
Well,
it was very light.
I think we know what was in it now.
Yeah. There's a couple of things where he dumps stuff, but I don't know about this particular bag. I feel like that was a bit more of a he was putting the decoy bag of like being on top. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can very much see the bottom one is very heavy.
Well, he like kind of goes to like really it looks like it's heavy to push it into the lift.
Because what I found really gross was so he wheels this trolley with the suitcase out to the car, and he loads the suitcase, and this is all on CCTV. Loads it into the back of the car, and you see people walking down the street, and they don't know what's going on, but how awful would you feel? If you can see people, you go, oh my God, that's me. And that was happening as you're walking down the street. Oh, God, awful. So anyway, unloads this trolley, puts the suitcase into the back of the car, wheels the trolley back into the lobby. And as he's like walking into the lobby, he flags and talks to the guy behind the counter in the lobby of like, oh yeah, couldn't get the trolley around. Struggled with trying to manage the trolley. He's just awful.
He's so awful.
There was no element of him doing the whole I hope no one saw me do that.
No. Not at all.
He was even bringing attention to himself, having a conversation with someone around the trolley being so heavy or whatever, or, hard to maneuver. It blows me away. Oh, God.
Horrible.
So anyway, the next morning, so that obviously flows it in. The next morning on December 3rd at 6:50 a.m., he leaves City Life again, and in the car drives to a hardware store. He purchases a red shovel as well as 5 bolts. Yeah. As they were the decoy, and you see him at the counter talking about this with the guy, I don't know if they'll be the right size, kind of stuff, obviously. Douche. And whilst this red shovel is sitting on the counter, as if that's just my extra bit of purchase. I'm actually really worried about the bolts. Yeah. So you then see him at a he returns from there and he goes to, I think he drops off some things to the dry cleaners, a bag of things at the dry cleaners, a couple of things. He goes to a car wash. Because when he returns to City Life, after that, you see him get out of the car in the car park and walk through, no shoes, pants are kind of hoiked up a bit, and he walks back into his apartment with a bag, but no shoes on at all. So he gets dressed and you see him come back out again, and that's when he goes to the dry cleaners and stuff.
Yep.
Then he goes to a car wash.
Yep.
At the car wash, you see, which is about 11:20 in the morning on the 3rd, you see him washing down the entire car. He pulls out the back a pair of shoes and hoses them off, and you can clearly see on the CCTV how filthy these shoes are.
They are like he's trudged through some mud.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So then he drives out of the car wash, but then you see him come back into the bay and leave the shovel.
Yep.
Which that became a bit of an issue. They didn't, because they couldn't track that so well where he was. That took them a long time to find that shovel. But yeah.
Because he told them when they asked him about the shovel, where did he said he'd left it, because they were like, why did you buy a shovel? And he was like, oh, I bought it for, I can't remember where he said he'd left it. But he said he'd left it somewhere, and then they were able to track the rental car.
Right.
And they found it's so clear that he leaves it just in the corner of the car wash bay.
Yeah.
So, again, he's being deceptive.
Yeah. So heads back to his apartment after all of that. Then he takes a bag from the apartment at about 3:20 in the afternoon and goes to this place called Albert Park. And that he dumps a heap of stuff out of this bag into a rubbish bin in Albert Park.
The inference is that the bag basically contains some personal effects of Grace's, so her mobile phone and some other personal effects.
No, not the mobile phone. So because they retrieve the stuff out of the bin, they do actually get to that, and they get that. The phone, they believe, they still can't prove this because they've never found the phone. So on the morning of the 6th, he goes out again to a bay somewhere. And all they know is that he drove there in the morning. But they don't know why, and they don't know what he did there.
Right.
But the phone has never been found. Okay. So there is an inference there that potentially that's where he got rid of the phone.
I thought he put the phone in the bin. Okay, I didn't know about that.
No, the phone hadn't been retrieved because they would have really loved to have found the phone because there was some interactions that he was talking about over the phone he told the police at his first interview that the following morning, because he didn't see Grace that night, obviously after 8 p.m, and that he the next morning had texted her on Tinder he wanted to text her to see if they could catch up the next day, and they'd been unmatched.
So he couldn't. Yeah.
Which, is such a dick. So, let me see where we're up to. That's right, 2:20 in the afternoon on the CCTV, you can see the police arrive in the City Life foyer in the lobby there, and they're talking to some of the managers and sort of asking about Jesse. And as they're sort of talking, they sort of go, oh, that's Jesse there. He's just walking up. But Jesse on the CCTV, you can see him walking up towards the lobby, and then he does the freak out because he sees that there's cops inside and go, I'll subtly turn around, and starts walking off down the street. And he walks very quickly then down the street to evade them.
I think it's actually really funny the way he does that. It's like so awkward. And then he's down the street.
Yeah. So they run after him and try and sort of to catch him up with him there. But turns out they so that's on the 5th of December that happened. So then on this morning of the 6th, he agrees to come in to have the chat and the interview where he doesn't admit to anything and sort of but he's clearly lying. So then again on the 8th, after they've searched his apartment and done all those sorts of things and got all their evidence together, they bring him in for another chat. He brings a lawyer, as he's entitled to do, as he should do. Absolutely. And at this point, he does confess. However, his story is not. It doesn't align with a lot of things, but this is his confession.
This is his version of events.
His version of events is that they consumed 25 drinks each and were very drunk, that they had consensual sex.
That she was into 50 Shades of Grey, sort of a bit of kink in that way.
Yeah.
And then, so they had this rough sex, all very consensual according to him.
Yeah.
And then after they finished, he decided to go and have a shower. And he says he walked into the bathroom and had a shower, but he fell asleep under the shower head, while the shower was on.
Yeah. Don't seriously take showers to wake themselves up?
But seriously, you're not fucking falling asleep in the shower with the shower on.
Yeah. No.
Don't even. What an idiot. Anyway, he reckons he's then all really groggy. Eventually he wakes up and he's all really groggy, and he goes back into the bedroom and Grace isn't there. So he assumes she's gone. And this is his story, obviously. And then he falls into bed because he's so drunk and falls asleep. When he wakes up in the morning, he sees Grace dead on the floor on the other side of the bed in a pool of blood. There's blood on the floor. There's blood coming from her nose, he said. The police have also found some very interesting photos that were taken that night of Grace's genitalia and of his.
And the timing of those are actually, so basically the sequence of events of his searches and those photos being taken on his phone are that he searches, I'm going to butcher it, the Waitakere Rangers. He searches them
first.
And then he searches Hottest Fire.
Yep.
Then he takes the photos. So the inference is...
He watches the porn first.
He watches the porn and then takes the photos. So the inference is from like the prosecution in the trial is that she was dead when he took those photos.
They kind of know this too in a way because he also says in his statement at this point, he says in his statement that Grace wanted all of the lights off, and so while they were having sex, she liked it in the dark, and he'd turned the TV on at one point to give some ambient light, and she didn't even like that. But then the police look at these photos of her genitals and it's fully lit up, like the lights are on.
Yeah.
So that goes even further to the fact that she was deceased when these photos were taken.
Yeah.
And they're literally just close-up photos of her genitals. Oh, my God.
Awful. I don't know if it's maybe a good spot to put it, but the autopsy report, etc., there's actually no evidence of them ever actually having sex.
No.
So just put that out there.
Put that out there. Also, I think it's worth noting at the minute too that he has had, and we find this out during the trial, that he has had many encounters with women that were horrific for those women.
Yeah.
And some of them actually did have injuries from penetration from him because he was so rough with them.
Yeah.
So the thought is that had they actually had P and V sex, that there was potentially going to be some kind of like notable damage potentially to Grace, but there was no sign that they'd had sex at all. There was no semen. There was no swelling or bruising or anything around that area.
No.
There was swelling and bruising, however, around her neck and bruising on her arms. And the coroner basically said, there was also some bruising on her jaw and on her neck. The coroner concluded that she had been strangulated and asphyxiated, and that it would have taken up to 5 minutes of really strong hold in order to kill her.
Yeah. The defense argued that against that, and this shits me. So their argument is that because she was intoxicated, it could have potentially been less time to do that. However, the simple fact of the matter is she would have passed out first. As in, it takes time to strangle someone, whether it be a minute or 5 minutes. That is a long time to be applying pressure somewhere and not noticing that this person isn't responding. There's time to go, oh, she's passed out, stop, and to be able to have her come good.
Yep. Well,
before that gets
this is
to that
Jesse's
point.
thing, isn't it? Is that this was consensual. She was she was part of a member of the BDSM community, and that she wanted this rough sex and play. The defense's case was that it was consensual and just in the act of this consensual rough sex that she had died by mistake. But the prosecution basically say that no one can consent to their own murder.
No.
So, yes, she may have consented to some rough play, but at the point where she's passed out, she can no longer consent.
No.
Like, that's beyond that now.
No.
And yet you've still taken it to the point where she's died.
There's a moment in the trial where the defense attorney, Ian Brookie, he actually, you can actually see on his face, and it's almost hard for him to even get these words out of his mouth, that I feel like a lot of the defense was like, that's what Jesse wanted the defense to be, and so they were implementing. Although, however, if you watch the trial, so much of the defense is so problematic. I felt ill watching it. But there's a moment where he says I think it's his opening argument, basically, he says, Jesse did what she wanted him to do. And you can see him struggling to even really put those words out of his mouth, because that is absolutely disgusting.
It's bullshit.
I have so many issues with the fact that this trial meant that her sexual preferences were put out in the public when that, to be honest, has nothing to do with the fact that she's now dead.
Oh, absolutely nothing.
There is nothing there that should not have ever been brought into trial.
No, it's irrelevant.
It is absolutely irrelevant. No one asks to be strangled to death.
The justice in the case said that this isn't sex gone wrong. The person responsible must have known what they were doing. And the defence sort of in response to that were basically said words along the lines of, bad situations lead people to do bad things. So it's not like Jesse's not bad. He was just in a bit of a bad situation. So what could he do? Maybe call the fucking police or call an ambulance or maybe don't strangle your Tinder date to death.
So in his interview where he does confess, and I put that in inverted commas, he says that he did attempt to dial, I think it's 111 in New Zealand. Don't quote me. But he hung up because he panicked, right?
But they weren't able to prove that he did that.
No, not at all. Which to me, like, it connects pretty quick, kind of thing that they'd be able to track that. So I don't think that ever happened. But that's what he said he did. But then he says about putting her body in the suitcase and stuff, that he was just, he was awful. It was awful. And he's like fake crying at this point in the interview. And he says, I just couldn't stop thinking about what we had shared the night before.
Oh, fucking gross.
Oh, it's so disgusting. Like, no. Yeah. And the other thing with the interview at that point, like, so when he finishes telling his story of his idea of what happened. So he finishes telling that, and you just hear from the side, his lawyer actually says, so did you intend to cause her death? The cop never reacts to this questioning from the lawyer, like, kind of thing. And Jesse does. He says, oh, no. Now, the simple fact is in New Zealand, the law is that you have to be able to be convicted of murder. It's got to be intent to kill. So his lawyer is trying to already plant that seed of there wasn't intention to kill, so therefore it's not murder. You'd be under a different manslaughter and a lesser charge. There's nothing about this that's not murder. I can't even. So that already begins at that very early stage that his lawyer's planting that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The prosecution's case, they actually put together a whole list of ex-Tinder dates, and there was so much evidence that went towards this being a pattern of behaviour for him. One most notably was, and he ended up, I'll talk about that in a second, but a month before he'd met Grace, he was on a date with a woman, and I think they ended up back at, I don't know if it was her house or his apartment, I'm not actually sure, but they ended up back somewhere, and she decided during the course of this that, I'm really sorry, that's my dog in the background.
Oh, you're just getting more deliveries for Christmas.
Hey guys, it was Black Friday, and so there's lots of deliveries. I'm very, very sorry for that. But they were on a date, and it got to the point where they've gone back to a house, and she's decided in the course of that she no longer wants to engage in sex with him, even though that's kind of where it was going. You can withdraw your consent at literally any time.
Consent is fluid.
It is fluid. It is not black and white.
Nope.
It is you have the right to do whatever you want, whenever you want in those spaces. And he has then restrained her, sat on her face with his bare bottom and all the other bits. Pinned her forearms down. She said it lasted for 30 seconds and it felt like an hour.
30 seconds would feel like that. And it is a long time to not be able to get breath.
Yep.
But those asshole fucking defense lawyers, when you watch that, because I don't know if she's in the courtroom, to be honest, when you can't tell, you don't see her. So I don't know whether it's some sort of link or whether she's in the room, but it doesn't matter either way. The fucking defense lawyers and the way they speak to her is so disgusting. It should not have been allowed.
No.
They just destroy her in terms of they re-victimize her 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
They keep saying, I put it to you that you were never restrained, that this never happened. How dare you? That's her statement. Like, that's what she says happened. That's what happened. Start believing the victims.
But that's their job at the end of the day. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. But they had to put that out there, I guess. It's horrible.
You've got to have evidence as to why to say that she's not lying. Put it to her of saying, oh, but we've got this actual evidence.
Do the defence need evidence? No.
But
the prosecution need evidence. The defense doesn't. And that's why this is such horseshit and why it's so unfair.
Berate someone on the stand like that.
But of course women don't want to come forward then, do they? Because as you said, they're being re-victimised. They're being re-traumatised by this.
It's bullshit.
And hats off to her for doing this in Grace's
Well, the fact of the matter is, this wouldn't have got maybe to where it got. I mean, the police and everyone agrees, at the end of all this, that if it wasn't Grace, it would have been someone else, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because the simple fact is there is a pattern in his behaviours.
And as you say, we always say it escalates, and this is what was happening with him.
But every other woman who, up to this point, like there's a lot of women were on the stand at the trial, and and again, hats off to them for doing that. However, they never came forward before Grace because of this, because this is how you get treated.
Yeah. As a victim.
Yeah. So they didn't come forward and say he, held a knife to my throat. He, he pinned me down. He raped me. All these sorts of things never came out prior to Grace, because why would you put yourself through all of that? Because you're re-victimizing you. Mm-hmm. You've got to go through it all over again and again in that disgusting courtroom of these men. Putting it to you that you are lying.
Exactly. So this particular victim, she also said like she was paralyzed after this had happened. And you would, I can totally.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully never been in that situation, but she was paralyzed. She didn't know what to do. He's gone to the bathroom, and then she's visibly very upset, and he's come back out and he's like, I don't know what you're crying about. I've got cancer.
Oh, that lying piece of shit.
Again,
Jesus.
Obviously, didn't have cancer. God,
No.
he's such a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, he really, really is. So basically, obviously we've really discussed all the trial all in one there, which is great. But the jury only took 5 hours to deliberate at the end of the trial.
Again, worth noting, there were 7 men and 5 women on the jury. And when I read that initially, I was like, fuck, how's this going to actually go? Because I'm not saying all men, but, is there a bit of a brotherhood going on? I'm like, there's 7 men to 5 women. How's this actually going to play out? But thankfully, on the 22nd of November in 2019, he was found guilty of her murder.
Yep.
He received a sentence in February of 2020 of life in prison with 17 years non-parole. Because of the women who came forward during this trial, he was actually then subsequently convicted of 2 further sex offences and given an extra 11 years non-parole on his sentence.
So there was a separate trial that occurred with his ex-girlfriend, and the stuff that she then ended up taking him to court over were horrific. Her story is just absolutely awful.
Horrible.
So, that he held knives to her throat regularly, threatened to kill her on a number of occasions, repeatedly raped her. Yeah. She spoke about how aggressive he was, and that the fact was her take on things she knew Jesse, to be honest, I think more than anybody did, if you could know him. And she
knew his true being.
That's right. And she came out and said that she believes to her core that what would have happened is that Grace would have said no, and then he would have become violent and insisted. And
this kind of speaks to he was intoxicated. His ex-housemates have all said that when he was intoxicated, he became really aggressive.
Yeah.
It all just plays into the picture of what ended up happening. It's
when
horrific.
you look at the actual scene, so the cops, when they went in and saw the room, there's a lot that doesn't line up with then his story of events, because there are on the floor it was found, they used that luminol. They have 2 pools of blood, but there's also blood splatter on the walls.
Yes.
So it's not as clear cut, I don't think, of a strangulation. I think there would have been some sort of beatings as well, which, I think he did talk about, that there was a bit of hitting and that involved in the BDSM they were performing, but I think there's far more aggression in it than playful, in that sense. There was a lot of evidence to suggest there was a lot more to it. So I think she might have fought, and I think he might have, what his ex-girlfriend insinuates of being, that she said no and then he's got aggressive is what happened. Because...
Agreed.
And as we said before, there was actually no evidence of them actually having sex.
Yeah.
So, just absolutely awful.
It's horrible.
Yep.
I guess that kind of brings us to the end of the episode.
I was just going to say that Justice Simon Moore was the judge on this, and he made some interesting comments in sentencing. He said that Kempson's childhood and upbringing has been affected by various traumatic influences which impacted his transition to adulthood, an ability to make good decisions and the right decisions. He also said that volatile upbringing and cultural isolation may have led him to lie to those who he wanted to impress by pretending you were a man of affluence and social standing. And that appears to have been your modus operandi when attempting to impress the women you met. Yeah.
He's nailed that, hasn't he?
Yeah, I really think so.
I don't like your upbringing is an excuse for why you are the way you are. Although I get that, but as an adult, you've still got choices to make, and there are so many people who grow up in horrific family circumstances.
Yeah.
Who then go on to live very productive and very changed lives. Yeah. And he just wasn't one of those people.
No, I do think that there's some sort of brain chemical imbalance with him of like that he was who he was. Mm-hmm. Psychopath maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
there's no formal diagnosis that's been released. But there must be something.
There's something not right about him at all. Yeah. And I think that every woman that's come in contact with him pretty much can.
And the fact that he has no remorse and there's no.
To this day, he has no remorse, and he still argues that he has that rough sex. It was what it was.
Consensual
and that's what it was.
Rough sex.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's just such bullshit. But so he did appeal, but it was all shut down. He never made anywhere with any of his appeals. No. So this stands, the sentence that he's been given stands.
Yep.
I bloody hope it's a lot longer than 17 years and it should be life, and he never gets out, because I 100% he would definitely offend again. Yeah.
Well, all signs point to that. Yeah. People like this are known to not be able to be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
I hope that the justice system in New Zealand recognises that when he comes up for parole, and he will literally never see freedom again.
Yeah. Yeah. We can only hope.
Yeah.
Right. In the light of this, her mum, unfortunately, her dad passed away in 2020 of cancer, which they say, they reckon he died of a broken heart too. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he made it to sentencing even of him. But anyway,
it was around that time. I actually don't,
because the sentencing was Feb 2020, but he did pass away in 2020 as well. So I'm not sure when, but yeah. In the wake of it, though, Grace's mum, Gillian, and her cousin, Hannah, set up a charity called Love Grace, and they collect bags and items to give to women who experience domestic violence. And they also raise money for the White Ribbon Foundation, which obviously then moves to educate young men and boys around domestic violence, to hope that the next generation is not going to be inflicting these kinds of things on women and girls in the future.
It goes to breaking that cycle as well of, not repeating what you've grown up with, and letting kids know that there's, different options and there's a lot of help out there for those who want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. May Grace rest peacefully now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully she's with her dad and painting all the artwork she ever dreamed of wherever she is.
That's it. As always in these cases, like, the world has lost a really great person, and that's so unfair, because why?
Yeah.
Why do these things happen? It blows my mind to even think about it, because it's too much sometimes.
A young woman should be able to, adventure out and see the world and
go on a date and be safe.
On that, I mean, I have to comment on Jacinda Ardern, who was at the time the Prime Minister of New Zealand, when she came out to publicly say an apology to the family that their daughter should have been safe in their country, and she wasn't. Oh, God, we need more leaders like her in this world, unlike certain others, because that compassion, you knew it was not a political thing.
No,
she said it as a parent herself, as a member of the community. Just wow.
Yeah.
Can we have more of that, please?
I just love her.
Oh, me too.
Love her.
Yeah.
I've got a T-shirt with her name on it. Story for another day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our final episode for 2024. However, guys, stay tuned. We're having a break for 3 weeks now. Our next episode will be released on the 14th of January. So stay tuned to our socials and we'll give a few hints about what that case is going to be.
Yeah. Emma might try and do some dances over the summer that we might post of her doing. So
no, if I'm doing dances, you're doing dances.
I'm filming. I can't do both. I film it.
Yeah, you can. But over the next couple of weeks, we are going to release a little bonus episode for everybody. So stay tuned for that when it comes out. So in order to be notified when that comes out, hit the notification bell or the follow button on your podcasting app so that you know when that's come out and you can have a bit of a listen. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A type of episode for you guys.
And we might leak onto the socials what episode we're going to do for our first one for the new year. So stay on there and check those out as we go too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining us again and we will see you next year.
Merry
2025.
Christmas and Happy New Year.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.
See ya.